Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Akshit and today we have the second part in my Guide to JEE series where we will look at class 12 students. In my first part of this series, I covered tips for class 11 students, more specifically how you can get started with your JEE preparation, and there are some tips that are overlapping between that video and this one, and I won't be mentioning those tips again. They are relevant for 12th, but I won't be mentioning them again in this video, so make sure to check out the first part up here if you haven't already. Some of the most common doubts you will find on YouTube is students asking what to do if their 11th grade got messed up, or how to cover their backlogs of class 11th when they enter class 12th, or how can they revise class 11th while in class 12th, etc, etc, etc. When I entered class 12th, I was in a similar situation. मेरे बहुत सारे backlogs थे और मेरी conceptual understanding भी उतनी कुछ खास नहीं थी. In this video, I'll talk about the strategy I devised in order to cover my backlogs, revise 11th effectively, and pretty much covering the entire syllabus and completing it in more or less 11 months. With this, I hope to give you some helpful points that you can apply in your strategy as well. Before I move on to the actual planning and strategy, I want to address some trivial points. So with that, let's get started. If you are in a situation where you have to cover the entire syllabus in 1 year, or have a large number of backlogs or anything similar, the first thing that I will tell you is to not be afraid. At this point in time, when you're just starting out, it might seem like a huge goal to cover, and it is a huge goal. Like बहुत मेहनत लगती है ये करने में यार. Like you will probably even have to work even harder than I did. So just keep that in mind, but don't get disheartened. Keep that winning mentality in you. It might not seem like much, but having a positive state of mind can be the difference between winning and losing a lot of times. Just keep telling yourself that you can do it. I would also like to mention that since you're going to be having to work really hard for a really long time, the chances of you burning out will be significant. So you should design your schedule keeping that in mind. Make your schedule flexible and add 1 or 2 cover-up days, so that even if you get into a situation where you run into burnout, you have a schedule that is flexible enough that can allow you to take 1 or 2 days of rest and still be able to complete your schedule on time. So keep that in mind. The last thing that I'll talk about in this section is something that I personally did during my preparation, which I felt was a complete stroke of genius, was the decision that I took to cover organic chemistry and physical chemistry simultaneously at the start of 12th. I did this because of 2 reasons. Firstly, from analyzing channels like Unacademy, I realized that the chemistry syllabus was not completed in time, and I realized कि बहुत सारा content है class 12th की chemistry में, and it's not easy to cover. So and this was the case in many coaching institutes as well. So keeping this in mind, I tried to reduce the amount of time my class 12th syllabus will take by clubbing organic and physical together. This was also very easy because the physical chemistry of class 12th is baby-like compared to the physical chemistry of class 11. There are very easy chapters, so it worked pretty well. The second reason was that since GOC is usually taught in class 11th, like towards the end, if I started my class 12th with organic chemistry, I would essentially be doing organic chemistry in one swift go. And I think going from IUPAC naming to amines like this in one go really helped build my understanding of organic and made it my favorite subject by far right now. And just like that, in about 3 months, I was done with organic and physical chemistry, and I was only left with inorganic chemistry of class 12th. Now, so this was a pretty good decision. If you can, try to do this. Alright, now it is time to move on to the actual strategy that I used. The first thing you have to do is, as always, plan. I'll share a little of what my planning process looked like, and it is a pretty good framework, so you can definitely take inspiration from it. and it is also best explained by an example, so that is exactly what I'm going to do. My planning was made up of 3 stages. Firstly, we have the monthly goals, and then I had weekly blockings, and then of course the daily schedule. Let's explore these in a little bit more detail. Okay, so firstly we have monthly goals. By monthly goals, I mean every month I created a list of chapters that I plan to complete that month. And I also added a couple of extra chapters just in case I finished my chapters earlier, so that I won't just sit around with doing nothing. As an example, let's say मेरे को physics में EMI and AC पढ़ना है, chemistry में P block complete करना है इस महीने, और mathematics में मेरे को indefinite integration पढ़ना है. So as you can see on the screen, I've also added some extra chapters in just in case. Coming to weekly blocking, for each chapter I used to look at the number of lectures that I had from wherever I was studying, and considering 1 lecture per day, I would try and approximate how long it would take me to complete the chapter. I also provided 1 extra day for cover up to each chapter just in case I'm not able to study properly. This ensured that my schedule was flexible and I could take breaks if I really needed to. With this, I filled up my calendar for a month. Keeping with our example that I mentioned before, this is how a typical month in my calendar would look like. If you notice, I have left the weekends blank, and there is a reason for that. This is where we will cover our backlogs. I will talk about that in more detail in just a couple of minutes. Coming to my daily schedule, during lockdown lectures, I'll be honest, I did not attend my school classes. Instead, I focused on getting 7 to 9 hours of study each day. I made sure that every day I include both lectures and practice to my day, and so the first 3 hours of my study was dedicated to lectures, which I had where I had 1 hour for each subject, and after about 12 p.m. I would sit down and practice whatever I had learned in those lectures earlier in the day, and I would try and practice for 4 or 5 hours. Another thing that I learned during my preparation was that watching videos at 2x speed na बहुत helpful hai. A big reason of why I was able to complete my syllabus early was because I was watching videos in 2x. This helped me get in about 2 or even 3 lectures in just an hour if I could skip the useless information. So this was a big reason in why I was able to complete the syllabus so quickly. Now I will talk about how you can cover your class 11 backlogs in class 12. Do note, if you're trying to complete the entire syllabus in 1 year, you can follow the same strategy. The only difference is you'll have to work a little bit harder because you're going to have to do everything from scratch. The first thing to know when you have backlogs is to not be afraid of them. You have to start working on them immediately. While completing backlogs in 12th, you just have to take care of one thing, and that is to make sure that your backlogs do not interfere with your current lectures. By this I mean that you can't just leave the lectures that you're preparing right now in order to cover your backlogs. If you leave your current lectures, the ones that you're studying right now, that will just create new backlogs and it will turn into a vicious cycle. The best way to complete your backlogs is to do them side by side along with your syllabus completion. Keeping this in mind, I came up with something that I call backlog weekends. So what I did was every weekend I would switch over from my regular lectures and watch lectures to cover my backlogs. So I would spend the first 3-4 hours of the day watching these lectures, and after lunch I would sit for another 4-5 hours and practice questions for my backlogs as well as my regular lectures that I am studying during the weekday. This way, over the weekend, I could cover my backlogs as well as get some practice on my regular lectures without compromising them in any way whatsoever. For backlog lectures, just a side note, I prefer to go through revision or one-shot lectures because these covered all the concepts in a much shorter time, which is ideal if you've studied the chapter at least once and are just trying to cover your backlogs. Also, if you are in coaching, try to do these on your off days. Just pick any 2 and just give them as much time as you can. We all know revision is super important, but it is especially important to revise your class 11th during your class 12th, because at the end of it all, you have to revise the entire JEE syllabus. A lot of students struggle with this because they just leave class 11th throughout their class 12th, and then they just don't revise it until the end. This leads to them forgetting concepts because they haven't touched the syllabus in over a year, and then they have to waste their time relearning all of the concepts that they already have learned, and as I said, it leads to a huge wastage of time. And this whole wastage of time is just arising from one issue, that they put off revising their class 11 syllabus. So don't be like that. The solution to this is once again spaced repetition. A couple of minutes ago I talked about the backlog weekends. Well, if you don't have any backlogs or are done with them, you can convert these backlog weekends into revision weekends where you revise the class 11 syllabus. Look at your notes, practice some PYQs, recall your concepts and revise your formulae. If you keep revising your class 11 throughout your class 12, you won't have the problem of not being able to recall the class 11 syllabus or concepts right at the end. Well, that will be it for this video. I have a lot more videos planned on online learning, on how to cope with school and JEE, as well as how to do your final revision. So stay tuned, and all of these are coming one by one. Every week I'm bringing you new content, so if you like that, well, press the like button, and for more content like this, subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I'll see you all next week.